Hello, and welcome back to Dev Game Club, a weekly podcast in which two veteran game developers look at games from the past to discuss their relevance and impact today. I'm Brett Duval, and I'm joined as always by my co host, a man whose feelings run ahead of his thinking.
Tim Longo.
I don't remember who said that, but they did note that great discoveries are made when your feelings run ahead of your thinking. And I feel like the last 15, 20 hours of Ultima IV for me have been filled with great discoveries. So it felt appropriate to quote that this beginning of this episode.
It's a very quotable game. I mean,
That's true.
It's
true.
so, I know we're not to jump right in, but
jump
it's
in.
not even one of our topics that we talked about in pre-show, but I've just been so impressed with the writing, and the fact that it even is there as well.
I mean, it's so literary feeling in how it's written. It is very, it has to be very condensed, right? Because memory at the time. I mean, text is cheap, but not free. And when it's 64K, there's a lot of limitations. I suspect some of that stuff maybe came from disk, as you're talking with people, maybe as you go into towns, maybe they pull in data. I've seen on the, on the looking at the GOG directory, like there's data files, then I'm like, oh, I wonder how this is organized. But just out of curiosity, but still, right? I mean, it had to be very terse, and to be terse, but also quotable, literary feeling, mostly in an appropriate tone. I mean, there's some things that are a little like, I don't know, like I found Paul and Linda, like, okay, I'm probably just a fan of the McCartneys, I guess, but anyway, it just to achieve all of that, across the board is pretty remarkable. I know he did have writing help on this one as well, so I don't know if
there are two. I think there's at least there's one other person credited as writing.
Yeah,
there might be more, but on the wiki at least.
I was thinking of the manual as well, which I think was a second person in addition to the person who helped with the in-game text.
Yeah, that could have been. Oftentimes the manuals are done by different. And I was looking at the cover today for, I guess it must have been the Apple version, but there's a sticker on the cover of the box. I saw an image someplace, and it's boasting that you need 64K to run this game.
Yeah.
Like as if it were.
Well, the original Apple II was the 48K.
So they were like, they needed to make sure you had.
Yeah, so you had to have either an expansion card, because just like somewhat like modern PCs, they had expansion boards inside the Apple II, and you could get it a number of things on those boards. Like we had one for a programming language, I think was enabled by a board in my Apple II. I can't remember what it was. And then, but then I think with the original Apple II and not the 2 Plus, which I think came with 64K, you could get 16 additional K of added memory on. I mean, it was a big board. It was like as big as, not quite as big as like something like a 4080 or 5080, but maybe like a 2080. So, they were pretty sizable. They were pretty sizable pieces of breadboard. So pretty wild.
Yeah, and I feel like with the writing, because they have such a consistent theme and tone and like identity to to your point, there's definitely a lot of pop culture references going on here and there, but if you exclude those, it's like there's such a cohesion with what it's trying to do with this one, because it's so focused around the virtues and everything, that I can, like, for lack of a better term, because writer in the family, we talk about writing voice a lot, and you're obviously the biggest reader in the world, so same, you probably think about it a lot too, but a writer, the voice of a writer is a thing that's very, you can tell, and even though it was multiple people, I think the identity behind the writing in the game is very pure to me.
Yeah.
You know, like when Hawkwind, is that his name?
Yeah, that's his name.
That's, case in point, maybe as far as the names go, but Hawkwind talks, you know, you kind of know what he's gonna, you know, the tone of what he's gonna say, and a lot of the people in the towns that are representing the virtue of that town, you know, are going to speak fairly philosophically in it, and I think they kind of knew. It seemed like they all knew what they were trying to achieve with it.
Yeah, like there was a real filter or pillar around how the writing was going to work.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
for sure.
That's a much more succinct way of putting it.
The way we would talk about it, you know, if it were you and I just developing it. Yeah, that they had a pillar for, you know, what the place feels like, what, you know, what Sosaria is all about, you know, and of course they expand on that in later games and they have more room to play with, but they pretty well maintain that tone, you know, and I think that's part of why the one that doesn't resonate with me is that the tone feels really off and weird in that one. Like there's way more popular, way more sort of pop references, and also the setting is very strange, and I think that's where this one really and the others really set themselves apart. Is it feels more consistent and its own thing, not some weird amalgam of Earth and whatever. So,
well, and that's what sets it apart for me as a series, as a franchise, compared to a lot of the other its contemporaries, but also, you know, games beyond and franchises beyond, like Dungeons and Dragons and what Dungeons and Dragons has become. And obviously, it was an influence, I'm sure, for this game, but Ultima has always been, and that's why I'm glad we're playing this one in particular, because of its quest being so different than the others. But Ultima has, I feel like, always been this different feeling world and tone to traditional, you know, the Baldur's Gates of the world, or the Gold Boxes of the world, or the more direct D&D games.
right.
Because most RPGs, there are definitely quests. We talked about it in the first episode. There are definitely going to be quests that will ask you your morality, you know, and ask you to make decisions as a player, but not this holistically. Usually it's just here or there, you know.
Right.
Usually you're just doing traditional D&D stuff, you know. You're not really like asking these sorts of questions or having people even talk to you that much about it. It's the exception to the rule usually. But here, everybody, like most everybody in a town, is going to be talking about that virtue, you know, and so it's pervasive. And I feel like Ultima, you know, I haven't played as many as you have, and I haven't played many of them at all, as I've said, but just the zeitgeist around it has always been different in my mind. So
yeah, that's very fair. That is very fair and true. We should probably talk about the quest stuff now that we're kind of, neither of us, to be candid, have finished the game. You know, it is quite a bit longer, I would say, than I was led to believe by how long to beat. I suspect those people were using a walkthrough. Because if you are figuring out everything for yourself, I actually think it takes substantially longer. I'm at like 42 hours or something. And I even feel like that dropped several hours one day. I don't know. I think I like quit GOG before it, you know, could update my time played or something. And it wasn't running in the background. And it's like, you know, I still probably have eight hours to go, maybe more. I don't know. It's kind of hard to say.
You have more than, I think I have much more than that, but I think I can't. 8 hours, really?
Yeah, that's true. I mean,
you
spent
only have
4 hours in a dungeon yesterday, so you know it's hard to say.
I mean, I think it's going to be 4+ hours just for the Abyss, I would bet.
Yeah, it could be. It could be.
It depends, I guess.
I did lose some time today. I can actually tell that story. When I spent quite a lot of time trying to get to the Shrine of Humility, and it is surrounded by, I mean, you don't see them on the map, but every time you take a step, you fight like 6 waves of like daemons and Balrons. And it's just, Balron is such a silly word. like wave upon wave of them, and then you finally get them, and you'll like take another step, and it's like the texture of the ground it feels like it looked a little different as well. But it's just like, and it's such a slog. And I finally got to the shrine, and I didn't have the rune. I was like, oh my God, how do I not have the rune? Like I found this thing and I didn't have the rune. And here's what's worse. This is the worst part. So I'm like, okay, I fought my way back out, and I went back out to where my ship was, and no more ship. It was gone.
Oh, shoot.
And what's worse is it's in this tiny little wedge of a channel in, so no other boat is going to come by there. So I just quit. I had to do some other stuff to get back to there, but I was like, well, what am I going to do? Like, I guess I could go try to find enough combat to get killed. Like, that doesn't seem like a good.
They might expect you to use the gate, that you would have had the gate spell by then, but
I didn't, because I had I've never found the people for Mandrake or Nightshade, and I think one or maybe both of those are needed. They're needed for the most powerful spells, so I assume that I would need it.
That's what I meant by they think you might have it by then.
Right, yeah.
Because you haven't found Vesper still. So
right, I haven't, yeah.
You definitely don't have that one yet.
Yeah. So, is that where Calumny is?
That is where one of the herbs.
One of the herbs is. Yeah.
I thought Calumny was in the Abbey, but
could be.
I could be wrong on that.
Yeah. I mean, I haven't been back to the Abbey in a while, so.
Me neither.
But I think the time I went back there, I was not like talking to everybody again. I was specifically going to the one door that I was like, oh, I want to go get through this one door, and I didn't talk to everybody. Yeah. So. Anyway.
Yeah, I feel like I need to go back to every town now and kind of once you get certain things and know certain things, I feel like it feels very daunting to want to go do that.
Right.
But to go talk to people and reopen and find all the doors, and because I didn't really take note of all the locked doors. And there's one, where's that one I just did? I think it's in Jalome. Yeah, I think it's in Jalome.
Oh, in the upper left? Yeah, I think I know which one you're talking about.
The one that gets you to the battlements and everything? And
around. Yeah. That's the one I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, pre-show. That's such a
reveal. Yeah.
That's such a good rune to get, and that whole process.
Yeah.
Anyway,
that one was wild. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. I mean, I wanted to get into this because, of course, you get later into the game, and you've because you are talking to everybody. Like at first, you kind of get the idea that you need to go to these shrines and stuff, because whenever you talk to people about their towns, talking about the thematic stuff you were talking about earlier, like they're all about talking about whatever their town's about. So you kind of quickly get the idea of like, oh, there are these shrines and there are these runes and mantras. Like you kind of pick up on that stuff pretty early. And you might even think, as I more or less thought, that like that's pretty much the game, right? Is go and become the avatar by doing all of those things, right? Which is hard enough on its own. But after a while,
I'm not even close to that, probably.
Yeah, right. I have. Well, I think 5. I have 5. I've been elevated in 5 of the virtues, and I have 3.
Oh wow! Okay.
Yeah, I have 3 to go. And for some reason, they are refusing me. And
once you get elevated, can you become unelevated?
I don't think so. I went and talked to Hawkwind and asked him about ones in which I had been elevated, and he said I was a partial avatar in that.
You can't mess them up, though.
I don't think you can mess them up at that point. I think they're locked in. You're like, oh, you are that. You are that thing.
That's good, because I have to maintain it.
Yeah, that would be annoying.
8 of them the whole time.
Yeah.
Sorry, go ahead.
But that you start to pick up other things that are like, people talk about stuff where you're like, I don't really understand what you're talking about. they're talking about these stones and finding these stones. You're like, well, why? I just need the runes. It's like, I don't know what the stones are about, but I don't, what everybody's going on about these stones, but okay, whatever, and you make notes, and I don't actually even know what I'm going to use the stones for at this point.
Right.
But I do know that, like, oh no, the game actually is not going to be over with me attaining avatarhood by elevating myself at each of these shrines. I'm actually going to have to go and find the Codex of Infinite Wisdom, which somebody talks about at some point, and enter the Abyss, which is also kind of, we've played Ultima Underworld, so we've been in the Abyss before, which was 8 levels deep, by the way.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah. And other people are talking about, like, this word, and you're like, well, what's that about? And this key, and I'm like, what is going, like, there's so much more to go on here in this later quest stuff, that I'm just like, I don't even.
You know what I keep thinking throughout playing this game, and it will relate to one of my kind of takeaways when it comes to this game's influence, because based on the date, and I was thinking of the Triforce a lot today, and that Zelda came out after this, after this series, or at least 1, 2, and 3 were out. That this game is the ultimate game about keys that aren't keys.
Oh, that's true.
I mean, becoming the avatar is a key in and of itself, the 8 virtues. And then there's the stones, which are probably, we don't know, but probably some kinds of keys or needed. Then there's this new quest that we found that's probably another thing. Then there's the word. I mean, at the end of the day, it's a bunch of fetch quests, but and things that that you're filling your inventory with that we still do today. It's really, as a quick aside, I'm playing a lot of Diablo 4 still, and at the same time, and the similarities are just, like, obviously real time versus not like half real time or whatever Ultimate is. But it's just so funny how, like, things haven't changed.
Yeah, for sure. Anyway, it's like with the stones, I don't really understand that. I know I'm going to probably need to use them somehow. That's one thing that nobody's been really clear with me yet about, is like, what are they for? But I don't know. I mean,
and there's also 8 of them.
I have to reread, and there are 8 of them. Yeah. Have you caught on to what the dungeons names are?
Other than sort of the antithesis of the virtue?
That's what they are.
Yeah.
So I love that, you're going down into these, the underground place, the dark places are the vices, and
it's elegant.
Yeah, it's really nice. It's really nice.
And that the artifact you're trying to get is inside of them.
Yeah.
There's just a lot of metaphor going on that you just, I don't know.
You just don't find elsewhere.
Yeah. I know it's out there, and I know, especially in the indie space, that a lot of people are doing some interesting stuff, like we've talked a little bit about. But
this is 1985, Tim.
Yeah, it's just not a thing. Like, I wonder. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. We need to stay on topic, but this game is so non-traditional, especially because of its quest and its difficulty, I guess, and its mystery, that how opaque it is, that I don't think it'd be really hard for a big budget game to do something like this today. And that's one of our problems, right, with the industry, is those sorts of risks are not taken anymore because it's just too expensive. But I just have hope that the indies will be the ones to carry this torch.
Yeah,
no pun intended.
Yeah, I do think that there's when you are selling the spectacle, that you do build to kind of big story moments in games. I mean, I'm sure Baldur's Gate 3 has a lot of that, but like, in terms of having themes like this that are rich and like densely woven into the world itself, that's the sort of thing that I don't feel like we see as much.
It's just a really elegantly designed game. It's very cohesive. Again, it'll come up in my takeaway, so I won't spoil it, but I just don't. My point is, think of the pitch. Obviously, pitching is on our minds a lot, and I do a lot of it.
Mm-hmm.
And for better or for worse, it's not like my choice. It's not my favorite thing. But think of the pitch for this game if it wasn't probably self-funded because of the previous three.
Yeah, funded off the other games.
You're going to play the avatar who is the player, but it's actually the player, and they're entering the world, but there isn't anyone to really kill. You have to become virtuous in 8 ways. It's like, I don't know.
Yeah.
People would just look at you like, what are you talking about?
Yeah, for sure. Since we were touching on the dungeon names, we should talk a little bit about what those dungeon experiences are. You've gotten one stone, I think. I've gotten two.
Yeah.
These stones, which again, we haven't really completely figured out the purpose of yet. They are, although there are 8 of them, and they are associated with the 8 virtues. So each color corresponds with a virtue. They are each in one of these, or it seems like they are each in one of these dungeons, and that's why we ventured to find them. And you can kind of once you figure out that the names of the dungeons correspond to the virtues, as being sort of vices or the antithesis, as you put it. That means they're actually not that far from the places, the shrines and.
Oh, I didn't put that.
Yeah. Together. Once you find a couple of them,
because I haven't found all the dungeons still.
No, I've only found I think 4. Well,
I think also
I found 4, I think, and because wrong is connected to despise and covetous and Hithloth. They are connected on the 8th floor, the 8th, below ground floor.
The 8th blows my mind that they're
like there's a point where it's like you enter a room, and we'll talk about these custom rooms. There's an altar in the middle, and by the way, the exits, other than the one you came from, take you to other dungeons and the bottom of those dungeons, which is crazy. It's absolutely crazy.
I don't want more people do that. That's such a great idea.
It's so cool. It is so cool. I was saying today when we were talking
you should
about how it reminded me of the Nether in Minecraft, in that it's sort of like you've gone closer to the core of the world, and therefore everything's kind of closer together, right? Because it's a sphere and it's smaller, although this world is not a sphere.
When Lost Lake and Kaon talk about we got to go to this gate,
because
it's going to connect us to this. Yeah. We're going to skip space basically.
By going down into the Nether. It's so wild. But anyway, once you understand that they are kind of like that, it kind of helps helps you figure out okay, this is where I'm gonna find these
where
things.
They could be. I should probably think, okay, that's helpful in kind of trying to triangulate a little
bit. Just in terms of where you'd look on the map.
Well, also I think that I'm guessing that I think the abyss must be the 8th. So
probably.
I'm wondering how are there. So did you get one of the stones in the abyss? Then
maybe I'll have to go back. I don't have my notes here. I left them downstairs by accident, but so I haven't I'm due for another pass of okay, what have I not done?
It's just weird that we don't know. It's just weird to be on these quests. There's the words. You're trying to get 3 syllables to the word. We found this other thing where there's these 3 other artifacts that are not stones. But it's we're going and doing these things because we think we have to, and people are telling us to, but it's so funny to not. I mean, at least well, no, in this case.
I mean, today's it would be a list,
No, that's what I mean. Yeah, it's we'd know. Yeah.
But
I was going to say that it's at least it's not lock and key. There's not lock and key issues, but in this case, it is.
Yeah,
we haven't found the lock.
Right.
We're only looking for the keys.
I feel like one of the shrines I entered like maybe compassion, like one of the parts of compassion before I had leveled up to be, elevated, was like about the candle, which is one of these 3 artifacts.
Ooh, you know what? I think you're right. I remember that voice line. I don't think I wrote, or voice line text.
Line.
I don't think I wrote it down though.
Yeah.
I forgot about that because I've only been able to successfully meditate a couple times, but they do usually say something.
Yeah.
Wow. The mystery in this game.
I know. Anyway, so back to the dungeons. They're kind of near, like I said, I think the places they reflect, that they are the opposite of, which helps finding them, which is nice because they are mostly not accessible without a ship. There is at least one despise is reachable by land, but many of them are not, and so you have to kind of like
Destard. I will give you a clue.
Oh, Destard
is also on the mainland. Yeah.
Oh, is it? Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, but that's the only one I did.
Shame and covetous. Covetous is near. What is that? Near sacrifice. And that's
Minnock. Yeah. Near Minnock, right?
Yes, near Minnock, and that.
But
that
you need
one
a ship to get to it.
You need a ship to get to that one. You need a ship to get to Wrong. You need a ship to get to.
I found Deceit as well.
I also found Deceit. You need a ship for that one too, I believe. That's near Honesty.
It's on an
of
island.
course.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, so maybe I found more than I realize. I'll have to go and look. It's because I found some of these dungeons before I got the sextant, which Tim hasn't gotten yet, and the sextant allows you to use one of the 26 verbs of the game, which is locate. If you have the sextant, you can locate yourself.
That's what that is.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So some of the commands.
Yeah, some of the commands are a little obtuse. Yeah. That I think was the last one I used was locate, because I had found the gems, and so I had Pureit Gem, and I think locate was the last one that I actually got. So
I had a bad mishap with the fire one because I didn't realize that it was a different command when you're in a ship than attack, and I was like attack, and they sunk me. I lost a lot that day.
Yeah. I had a day.
And I was like, wait a second.
I lost 2 ships, right, one right after the other.
Oh, I have a ship story for you later.
Man. Now we're talking about dungeons, so let's get back to that.
Dungeons.
So the wild thing about the dungeons is that I just mentioned the gems. You don't have to. I was hand mapping the first time I went into Despise. I was hand mapping everything on my iPad.
Yeah, me too.
But once you find the gems, in a special location, you can buy these gems that basically reveal the map, whatever the local map is. If you're in a town, well, you should already have those because of the telescope.
Oh, I haven't done it in a town. I didn't know you could do it.
I have done it in a town, and you get the same map you would get in the with the telescope. So you get these top-down maps of the floor of the dungeon that you're on, with some caveats. One is some of the floors have multiple ladders that reach them, and you can't see that there are other ladder unless they're connected to the ladder you're at. You actually can't see those other ladders. So with the gem, there was one map in Shame where I think there were 3 separate ways to get to level 2, and each time I was at level 2, I was only seeing a small part of it, and then I had to go way down in the dungeon, come back up, and things like that to actually get to the place I needed to go. So that's kind of a wild thing. They have lots of tricks that I was talking to Tim about before the show about that reflect sort of what we saw in things like Eye of the Beholder, where there's just a few elements that they use again and again. They have fountains and traps, which are winds that blow out your torch or extinguish your light. on your staff, despite the fact that it says the light spell will not do that. It does.
It does.
It's really helpful though to have done the mapping on a floor with a lot of those traps, because you'll want to know you'll want to have had the map so that you can maneuver in it, because some of those traps go a long way. There was one floor where it was like I opened it and it's everywhere traps except at the ladder, and I was like, how am I gonna find my way? I was like, oh well, I'm facing north and looks like it's 3 steps and then take a left and 4 steps and I can climb down. I was like, you gotta be kidding me. So anyway, it's still grid based, but the big thing that's different is these rooms, and I'll hand it over to you that make it a little bit different.
Yeah, so the what I guess I'll call the hall crawl, which you do get random encounters in, the floors
which are in first person.
Which are in first person, right? The floors are relatively compact if you do look at the maps when you use the gem, and they look small. I don't know. Do you know, like, is it something like they're 64 by 64 or something? It feels like
I think they're smaller than that.
Okay, so they're maybe 64 tiles total.
Yeah, well, more like 16 by 16, I would guess.
Yeah, maybe a 16 by 16. Yeah, you're right. Yeah, so it's so they've been very creative as far as making the hallways. But the reason it relates to the rooms, I was originally, when I was hand mapping, I was off on my mapping, and I couldn't figure out why. And then once I got the gems, I was like, oh, the doors are representing one square, and I wasn't doing that. I was using them as a boundary door. And then the other thing they do is you're going the hall crawl, but then they have discrete, what they call rooms, I think, or we would call rooms, but they're only represented by one square on the gem map, and basically a box. So it's like, one space. But once you go inside of the rooms, it's like a battle map. And the cool thing about it is that they have, however they've done it memory wise, have made basically custom battle maps for those rooms. In many cases, they put them at junction points. So you actually have to go through the room, and hence the battle in the room, to get to the other side if you want to go north or south. So a lot of times, I found a few that were, in the 4-way intersection. So if you want to go all the other 3 ways, you have to actually go through the battle 3 times, if it doesn't wrap back around. But it's just been really cool. Like, there's been scenarios. So these rooms are then on the gem. I'm just calling it, as we're speaking, the gem map. On the gem map, it's only one square, but you go in there and you're spending a fair amount of time in these battles, because it's, semi-turn based. I'll call it active. What is it called in
active time battles?
Active time battles. They're active time battles. So semi-turn based, but it still takes quite.
They're not active time battles, but
okay, all right. Well, their time is moving on, right? You can't just. They're not turn based. They're not real turn based.
You can't just wait. It will ultimately pass your turn if you. It just takes a while. Yeah.
Right. But then also, whether or not you kill everything, you still have to traverse the room using the turns to get to the other side. So I usually clear the room anyway, and then I'm just, quickly going through my turns to get through the space of the room. But I guess technically you could leave. I'm a paranoid of leaving any battle until everyone's dead, because Hawkwind will call me a coward, which he has done.
Yeah. Well, and you were. You said it was for expedience, but
it is an example of the choices they made in this game that do irritate me, because I love that they committed to it, but also mechanically, I'm like,
yeah. I mean, I also put myself back in the time. Well, back in the time, we would have been totally okay with this, right? I mean, this people only really started complaining about random battles that you couldn't skip, much later than this game. I mean, remember, you probably had
but the Final Fantasy games. If you escape, they don't penalize you.
Fair, right? But those games, A, are later, and B, I don't know if I have a B, but they're later anyway.
All right, okay, fine, fair. Anyway, so it's been unexpected for me, because when you're doing the battles in the overworld, there are repeating tiles based on the terrain that you're in, so you do see them time and time again. And of course, the towns are custom, so that's another. And those aren't at the same scale, of course. But
well, those are effectively also a battle map.
That's what it feels like, but they're not. The battle maps are always one screen. Kind of one screen-ish.
Right.
They're not scrolling.
Yeah.
Or at least we haven't found one that does. So I just appreciated the rooms. I just was mapping wrong because the rooms are just one square on the map.
Yeah.
Until I got the gems.
It's because you have to think of every square as because of random monsters possibly being a battle map. So
yeah, and when you explained it that way, and you explained it that way for the overworld too, that every square you're standing in the overworld is a battle map, a potential battle map. So that kind of breaks it, really like gels it breaks everything down quite well. And maybe he established, or they established this even all the way back to 1. I do wonder, there's a couple times when I wonder if some of the assumptions they're having for players, this is an age-old problem, right? With any long-time franchise. I've had the same problem with something like Halo, where how many preconceived notions are players coming in with that you don't have to teach them? How a needler works. It's like, someone playing Halo probably knows, so you just don't worry about it. But in here, like for instance, the way the battle map's working, the way that the moon gates work, there's some things that I'm like, this is something I probably learned in the previous game, and they're making the assumption I already know X, Y, or Z. I can't think of a better example than the moon gates, but
anyway, that's a good example. And they don't. Yeah, but you had to learn it some point. Like in those other games, they didn't explain it either. In the manuals or whatever.
For sure, no, agreed. There's been a couple instances though where it felt a little bit more of a hill to climb to learn it, where it could have. Yeah, anyway, doesn't matter. But the thing I've appreciated about the dungeons to final out, to close my comments on it, is just how dungeon crawly it feels. Like you said, I think you already mentioned you were in one of them for 4 hours. I was in for at least a couple hours, and they're only, well, in my case, I didn't even find the 8th level, but I did find the stone. So I have 7 levels for me. And that one I was stupidly doing my mapping as well as using the gems. I should have just taken screenshots like you were doing or whatever. So it was taking me longer, but still, the battle maps are not to be trifled with. Like, they take time, especially if you do them multiple times. Some of them are pretty difficult, and I've felt fairly creative in their tactical layouts.
Yeah.
To give you for instance, really quick, there was one that was just a long hallway with brick walls, and all you're trying to do is get from one end to the other. And I had to do it twice because I went down and up. And there's ghosts that start on the outside of the walls.
Oh, yeah.
And it's very narrow. So maybe he repeats this one, or they repeat this one. But just like simple concepts, because they have
there's so many ways that they incorporate mechanics from what you think of as like overworld battle map mechanics. Like there's I can't remember which one it's in. I guess it's probably in Shame. In Shame, there's a room where you're fighting, I think, ghosts and skeletons. And it literally has like the tavern, where the taverns have the name of them above it. It says at the top, it says and the bottom it says Crypt. And there are 6 or 8 boxes that you can't enter that are sarcophagi or something like that. I mean, they're just boxes, but like I'm looking at it and I'm like, oh my God, this is so spooky, because there's parts of the floor have swamp as well. So
oh no,
and that room has a secret exit. So you're like, but you can't see it. You actually have to find a floor tile to stand on that opens one of the crypts, and then somebody has to go stand in the crypt to open the actual exit, which just the wall opens, to the east or whatever, and like everybody can leave. Yeah. And it's so cool. It's like, so when you talk about them being more elaborate, that's the sort of thing that I mean.
They get really,
they're very.
There was
cool.
one.
There's one I didn't figure out in Shame that I'm like, I don't know how to get from this side of the wall to the other side of the wall.
That's amazing. Yeah.
And I found several secrets like that I could see, and like, oh, okay, there's a secret door there and there's a secret door there. I'll put people through there. and then, oh, look, there's another one here. And then nothing happened. I'm like, what do I do? But I didn't need to do whatever.
It's astounding.
Yeah.
I mean, it's astounding the variety and cleverness. Yeah, there's been, and I could go on and on, even in the one dungeon that I did thoroughly. I've only done 2 other dungeons kind of halfway. And then I think I hit the wind thing, and I was like, well, I don't know what to do about this. So I didn't have the gems at the time.
Yeah.
I need to go back now. But, but yeah, I mean, just tactical maps have been, for this game, as deceivingly simple as it looks, it is not.
Right.
When you look at screenshots of the game, you're like, what is this all about? I don't know if I've necessarily, I wouldn't say broken the game. It's not that powerful, but I feel like I'm playing it in a weird way that I really like playing it this way. But everybody has a ranged weapon.
Yeah, I'm that way too now. Yeah.
And I just, it changes so much.
My mage has a magic wand, and that's powerful. So it's like, finally my mage is going to level up.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have a couple magic bows and things, and it's like, it feels like I'm not doing something right because nobody's charging in, but at the same time, it gives you so much flexibility.
Yeah,
you can. There's no friendly fire.
The battles are way faster that way as well.
Yeah, you can shoot across the room most of the time and things like that. So yeah, it's dungeon crawls are no joke. Like, I feel that's why I mentioned the Diablo 4 thing. It's so funny that I'm dungeon crawling in so many different ways, but the fundamentals are still there.
I told you how much I had to prepare going into Despise, that it was like the 3rd time that I went in there that I actually got down to the 8th floor. Yeah. And I didn't even find the stone. I had to do that another time, So, and a lot of the preparation was like, I didn't have a lot of money, and the wallet taps out at 10,000. So it can be kind of a challenge to build up your wallet. But I went, when I kept going and being like, man, I don't have nearly enough cures and ability to make mixed reagents for dispels, which I needed on the bottom floor. That was, I had to make a Y up potion because I got stuck behind the dispel walls and couldn't get through them because I was out of dispels.
Shoot.
Yeah, it was a nightmare.
But see, the fact that you could do that, that it's
luckily I had some other option, right? You can't, and I don't think you can save in the dungeon, so you couldn't trap yourself.
So that's the funny thing, is I thought you couldn't, and then it started to let me.
Oh, okay. Maybe I just haven't tried because I didn't want to. That's also possible.
But I swear that I tried and it said, but then it started to do it. So I don't, well, to be honest, I haven't tried loading back in to see if it actually worked, but the message came up. I don't know. So, but you're right. I mean, it does make me think about how they handle some of those A bugs, but I guess.
Yeah.
What would you do then?
From our LucasArts days, by the way, for people being like, A bug, what is that? For us, an A bug was a crash or any stop progression bug, a bug that got you stuck, basically.
Yeah, blocker
blocker of some kind. So, because those are,
forget.
And those are not really forgivable these days. I mean, crashes are one thing, of course, but like, you get to a point in a game where it's like, oh, I've spent 40 hours in this game and I can't move forward, is like cardinal sin. And I think we were a little more,
back
forgiving of that in the 80s, but so like, oh, sorry, you spent 40 hours doing that and you messed up. It's like, that's on you. It's like, no, that's not on me. we changed our opinions on those sorts of things. All right. Well, I think that kind of covers dungeons. I want to talk about ships, and then especially the hidden little town. I talked about the sextant already.
Yeah, I have a ship story I'll tell you.
Well, let's go because we talked a little bit about ships last time, just as ways of getting around, and I don't love the sort of tacking that doesn't really work. I really wish that if there were one thing I would change about this game, is I would take out the wind stuff, and just
it doesn't add
anything, and it doesn't add any richness. All it does is add frustration. But once you have the sextant, at least you don't have to keep track as much. You can just check the sextant every now and again, like, am I near where I'm trying to get to? And so you can just kind of like bash the button a lot at that point, and that helps a little bit, at least with the frustration.
In the open ocean, though, you don't have good relativity. So even if you're bashing and you're going against the wind,
that's why you need the sextant, because you need the
and then at that point you need to know the sextant from the beginning.
Yeah, I'm in this. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I'm in this longitude and latitude. I wouldn't defend the that choice. I don't like the winds. I get why it's there, because it's a sailing. It's trying to replicate the sailing experience as well. I just don't think it's quite there yet. Anyway,
well, give me a reason to do it if wind is important. Like,
I'm not racing against anybody,
it should be additive.
All the ships go to the same speed, the enemies and everything. So it's like I can't get away because I'm a better sailor. I can't catch up with anyone. Like there's nothing for it.
Yeah.
But anyway, with that, tell your ship story. I'd like to.
Well, so I'll use a quick story to make some of the design points that I want to make too. But so we were talking in pre-show about what we think is probably going to be the island where the abyss is. We're not. I don't know if you know yet, but I don't think so. There's like a volcano and there's lava. And then it's a pretty big island that's mostly mountain, it seems like. I haven't gone all the way around it, but I've gone through most of it. And the reason I didn't finish going all the way around it is I found a cove. Did you find the cove when you were there? Did you go back to the volcano at any point?
I did, and I'm just curious where you're going with the cove.
Okay, so so there's this cove I went into that's like just north, a little bit north of the volcano. You can actually exit where the volcano is, and there's swamp there, but I don't know why you would. Again, I don't know where the entrance is. There's a cove there, and I went into the cove, and there were like 10 pirate ships.
Oh,
in the cove, and it was the most dramatic thing I've done in a video game in a long time, and I'm not exaggerating. It's just so crazy that I could have this like adrenaline pumping moment in this game from 1985. So I go into the thing, and of course it's semi turn based, right? There's ticks, and I stop. I freeze immediately because I see like 10 pirate ships, and
I'm like, should I back slowly out of this room?
Yeah, exactly. No, it's totally, and I'm scared of them because I had just lost a ship due to my shenanigans with using the wrong fire command.
Yeah.
And so I was scared, and I didn't want to die there. I didn't want to lose my ship. So I froze, and it's like they all kind of turned and pointed at me. So it was this Western standoff, and they're like, and I'm standing there at the mouth of this cove that's very piratey, and they're all pointing at me, and we're all frozen because I haven't made a move yet. And so I just slowly turn around, and then I gun it. And like 5 of them are right on my butt. But of course, because of the broadsiding, they can't fire at me.
Right.
So I'm just like, I can't turn. I just got to pound. And of course, I don't really have to pound because, I mean, there's no skill to hitting it faster, because if I move, they're going to move or whatever.
Yeah.
But the drama was there. And then eventually I get all the way across that middle ocean to the shore, and there's some islands, and I lose them in the small island.
That's awesome. Yeah.
Section,
the shoals or whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And they couldn't quite navigate it, so they weren't sure what to do. So I basically broke off, but then I was able to move out and broadside fire up at them. And I took a couple of them out. But then one of them, the thing that I want to talk about mechanically is that I didn't realize that there were mid-ocean boarding fights.
Yes, there are.
So I move up to, and then one moved down to me, and then it went to a battle screen, and we're like fighting ship to ship.
Ship to ship, yeah. It's amazing.
And then I took their ship, and then of course I had 2 ships, not at the same time, but I had them available. And then I didn't realize I could exit my ship in the middle of the ocean and then walk to their ship and take their ship.
Yeah.
Mind blown. And so
at one point, and like I wasn't that far from shore, so I just like pushed the other ship to shore. Like I would, if I was moving west, I would put one to the west of me, and then I would sail around it so that the ship to the east would come around to the west of the other one and just like leapfrog. I only had to do it like 10 squares. I could see the shore. So I was like, okay, I can do this. I can, so that I would have a second ship. Because there are times where you lose them. For example, finding Cove. Now there's a guy named Zaire or Zaire. I'm not sure how that would be pronounced, but in I think in Pause, and you talk to him, and he says, well, you ask him about the word. That's somebody tells you, he'll tell you about the word, and he says, oh no, you want my brother, who's in Cove, which is in Lost Lake. Lock Lake? Lock Lake. Not Lost Lake. Lock Lake. And I'm like, okay. And I tried to navigate like up a river to get to this lake. I know, you can see the lake on the map. And, so I'm like, okay, but there's a bridge and you can't go through the bridge. So you're like, oh, well, I can't, how do I get in there? And I was thinking, I actually tried the blink spell. I thought, well, maybe I go and I like blink into the middle of the lake, but
that's a good idea.
Yeah, I didn't. That's not how it worked. That's not what you're supposed to do. But remember last week I told you, well, I've seen I guess it was a tornado or a twister or something like that, and that killed me. But I did also see a whirlpool, which, by the way, is the cursor at the beginning of the game.
Oh, you're right.
Yeah. It might be the cursor all the time. It kind of spins. And I found a whirlpool, and I know pretty sure from maybe 3 and maybe 6
ringing a bell.
That the whirlpools were a thing. I was like, the original one, I was like, I'm not sure if that's what that's supposed to be. But I found a whirlpool. I hopped off the ship on land to save, just in case just in case this went badly. And I chased down the whirlpool and I got into it, and it took me out into the middle of that lake. And I was like, that is so cool. But now how am I going to find this guy? And it turns out there's a little town in there that you can only get to if you do this. And then of course you have to leave the ship behind on the lake and that's good design actually. Now if you ever need to go back to Cove, this town, you can do it that way with the ship you left behind.
I found the whirlpool by accident, or just randomly, and you had told me about it, and I was like, oh yeah, whirlpools. So I hadn't talked to Zara yet in Pause, but I knew I was supposed to. I just hadn't gone there yet. So I was like, I'm just going to go into the whirlpool, see what happens. And so I did, and I basically kind of did that backwards, and went to Cove and found the word stuff and the candle and some
I mean, since he's named the same, you could sort of like, if you got that out of order, it doesn't, because you're going to ask him the same
intentional
thing.
Because I thought because I knew I was looking for him, and then I saw him in Cove, and I was like, oh, maybe he wasn't going to be in Pause to begin with. When I went there,
right.
Go to another place.
Maybe you meant my other brother, Daryl.
But that moment was
so
amazing.
good. Such a good moment. Just one of those reveals where you're like, what? This is here? Because I was really puzzling over how I was going to get into that lake. And I walked all the way around it, and was kind of like, I'm just not seeing how I'm going to do this, and, sure enough. I wonder if you could blink there if you started in the right place.
Blink, I've fooled at blink a fair amount, and the rules of it are
pretty opaque.
Weird. The thing I love about that story and versus how I found it is that you had this interesting, cool reward by taking the whirlpool because you had been stumped. There was a mystery about how to get to the Cove, and you're like, well, I've tried all these different ways, and then you eventually found it, and that revelation had such a big impact. But for me, it was like a opposite experience, but still cool in its own way, because I was like, well, I'm gonna probably die when I go in this whirlpool. And then it wasn't that. So it just makes for interesting stories. I mean, the character pixels, is it 8 by 8? What do you think? Or like, what's the, not pixels, but it's
Oh
the,
yeah, they're pixels. It's probably,
or 16 by 16 or
they might
something.
be 8 by 16. I think they're 8 wide and 16 tall, maybe, or something like that. I can't remember.
Yeah, I was only going to bring it up in that
I
I
could probably
just,
work it. It's 192 pixels wide was the screen originally. Oh, but now I can't remember. It's like 120 high. So it's probably 12 pixels high, 10 or 12 pixels high, up and down, and then I don't know whatever wide. They feel like 8 wide to me.
yeah. They're
So
just so, it's like the conversations we had with Final Fantasy VI or something. It's like
yeah,
there's so much, and our points in the first episode about how much you fill in the blanks yourself. But there's just so many moments of video game splendor that we've had while playing this game, and it still holds up even despite these numbers of pixels, for these representations
yeah,
like
they
that.
are they are 16 by 16.
Okay. I just won't forget that ship chase for a long, long time, right? And these
Yeah,
ships are tiny, simple, like it's not much going on fidelity wise or whatever. It's just I imposed this whole narrative around it.
yeah, yeah. No, it's wild how well this game holds up. Um, any other stories you want to share before we go to takeaways? Since we're already at about an hour.
No, I think they kind of the others organically came out. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
Let me just scan my notes really quick, but I think we're good.
All right. In that case, let us turn to takeaways. At the end of a series of episodes on a particular game, we like to talk takeaways, which are just some things that we would take away to our own development. Something to think about as we thought about pillars for games that we work on. So I will throw, as is traditional, to you, sir, for your first takeaway.
Yeah, my first takeaway is kind of a catch-all, as always. I think I do, but for a theme we've talked a lot about during the series, and it's just what I wrote down was a consistent and elegant pattern. And we've talked about it time and time again, so I don't think I have to belabor the point. But what I had forgotten, maybe I assume was there in 3, but I played it so many years ago I would have forgotten. But I did not anticipate, and I do wonder, maybe you can tell me because you played more of them, and I'm betting you're going to keep playing them if I know you.
Yeah. I've already got 5 installed.
Yeah, I'm sure it's going to continue to be the case for the rest of them. But there's just a real elegance to the consistent pattern that the game has when it comes to the 8 virtues and the 8 dungeons and the 8 stones and the 8 towns, and not just the 8s, but then I was looking up up 8 virtues as a general concept in culture, global culture, and it comes up time and time again in various places. And of course, we know that culturally and philosophically, a lot of themes cross over into other civilizations over time, and they've borrowed and stolen from each other all sorts of ways. So you can see, kind of, it'd be interesting to know where he got his inspiration, but they show up. The 8 virtues of some kind show up in a lot of different cultures. But then there's sort of like, also I was thinking of the Triforce because of the 3 things that I mentioned, and in some of the graphical representations of the 8 virtues for this game, there's the 3, I don't know what they call them, principles that are within the 8.
Truth, love, and courage.
Truth, love, and courage, right? And the Triforce is courage, wisdom, and honor.
I think it's honor. I think you're right.
I'm going to get tomatoes thrown at me for that, but
I think you're right.
Yeah. So anyway, it's just this sort of symmetry of everything. And then the max level cap is 8 levels. To get to 8 levels is 6,400.
Oh, it's actually power, not honor.
Power. Okay. Thank you. Calamity's yelling at his podcast listener. Anyway, the level cap is 8, 6,400 XP to get there.
Yeah.
It's just like I was telling Brett in pre-show, I feel like a programmer designed this game.
Yeah.
Like, but in a good way, you know, like there's like, you can see
There's 8
math.
letters in Ultima IV.
Well, and then you mentioned even like there's only 4 characters that matter for the way that and I know that there's programmatically and memory wise reasons for all of this, but I don't feel like it's very few times where you see the memory constraints reflected in the narrative of the game, or whatever. It's just
well, you
like
think about it, it's like in order to store which runes you have in the save file, you need 1 byte.
Yeah.
It's like, the 8 is really nice that way. I mean, it's an 8-bit system, right? So 8s make a lot of sense.
It's just very meta, right? We've already talked about the meta concept of the avatar and the player and and all of that stuff, but then the game in its design is also meta based on technology and what you can do. Like,
I mean, this is constraints, right? We talk all the time about constraints, and
it just freaks me out how like finely tuned it is, and how like a well-made drum. What's that phrase? Tightly wound.
Tightly wound drum. Yeah.
I don't know. I'm butchering it.
Well-stretched drum. I don't. Got me.
It's just, it's the craftsmanship of it. I don't know. It's just so that's a takeaway for me of like finding these days. I mean, it's amazing the kinds of tools and lack of constraints that games have today when it comes to whatever engine you're using or editor you're using. And that's amazing that we have that capability, but the constraints that we always talk about on the podcast, and some of our favorite games, but also favorite films or whatever, came from constraints. And it just reminds me that sometimes those constraints, like, it's not always good to have
no, you have to choose your constraints if you don't have them. Right. I guess, how do you even, I mean, we call them, we use things like pillars and stuff to organize around, but it's also like a way to say, oh no, we're closing off these things just as much
what
as
we're not. Yeah. I mean, the what we're not phrase on any modern project of any scale is a constant battle.
For sure. Yeah. Well, my first one is simply having a point of view. I can feel the maturation of Richard Garriott as a person, an inquisitive person, a curious person in the world with this game, and thinking deeply about, philosophy, ethics, and the good life, as the Greeks would say, which did not mean like, do you eat out at restaurants every night? I was like, no, what is a good way to live a life? Was the principal focus of ethical philosophy. And, here he is, suggesting that the virtuous life is, and I suggest these virtues, it's almost presenting an argument, and it's also a sort of procedural argument because you have to live that way, and characters will react to you when you are not living that way. Hawkwind will call you a coward. I knew I lost my, what was it? My humility when somebody told me I was a braggart because I said I never lied or something like that. And I was really just like trying to get through the conversation. Same as you, like exiting the battles is like, it should have been more thoughtful. But it is that sort of like, no, it's a hard road to walk, a hard path to walk, to maintain those virtues. And like, he doesn't shy away from the costs, as you've discovered, right? Is that no, it's like, sure, like I said with the BioShock example of like, what's killing one child, right? In terms of making you a bad person, in that game, that was what they kind of wanted to feel like they had, but they didn't commit to it. And here it is committed and to having this point of view, and infusing it throughout the game. So I am deeply appreciative of that, because I don't, especially as teams got larger and they became less the voice of a single creator, it's been hard to maintain that. But even when we had single creators, it didn't often come through in that way. So I'm just really appreciative it's there here.
And it's wrapped into the success of the game, into the success of winning the game.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Like it's not unlike we talked about Mass Effect in the early days or the BioWare model. If you choose to go evil, you still can win the game.
Right.
But here it's like, no, you have to be this way to win the game.
You wouldn't be the Avatar if you were. Yeah.
And they've integrated into the game to get sacrifice to go higher. You have to do certain things in the game that reflect that. Or like you said, with humility, you have to not be, an egotistical jerk or whatever. I wanted to read really quickly to your point to piggyback on that. When I asked Hawkwind about justice, my status, thou art cruel and unjust, and in time will suffer for your crimes.
Wow. Strong words.
I was like, uh-oh. I'm going to have to work on that one. I think it must be because of all of the gold, the chests that I've stolen.
Yeah. It is unjust to steal. Yeah.
Yeah, I've stolen a lot of chests, but I think I've actually gotten it back to semi-normal, so I'm going to be okay.
Yeah.
The other thing I want to mention is when I mentioned this to Brett related to your takeaway in pre-show on Wikipedia, when you look up virtues, obviously sometimes when you look up a macro term on Wikipedia, they also list things that refer to that in various ways, so you can look at all of them. And so it has, the Bushido.
Yeah, like a category. Yeah.
Yeah, category Ashtavaranas and Taoism. And then listed in the list is Ultima IV, Quest of the Avatar, with all of these religions and philosophies. I thought that was wonderful. Like, we've made it. Video games we've made it.
We made it back in 1985. We can stop trying. All right, what's your second one, sir?
The second one, it kind of relates to yours a little bit too, or no, actually a lot. I guess they're kind of similar, but from a different, way to say it, is just breaking the traditional. And what I meant by that was, which the first three sounded like were very traditional, right? There's a big bad.
Yeah.
You'll get the big bad. And then they kind of very nicely wrapped in the trilogy, the previous trilogy, into the lore of this one of like, oh, the triad of evil or whatever has been defeated, and it's a time of, whatever, peace
flourishing.
Or
flourishing. Yeah.
But we've lost this, we've lost whatever, we've lost our avatar, or we need an avatar, etc. But it's taking that bold choice to break away from the traditional, I guess we should say Tolkien, but D&D, D&D approach was very, very appreciative to me as well. So I think it's the same point, but
it's another side of the coin for sure.
Yeah.
No, that's a
just
that's a good
because
point.
there's we have all played, and there are so many RPGs in the world, in the gaming world, and they do follow a fairly strict formula, for better or for worse. And it's nice. It's nice to play this 1985 game that does not do any of that.
Yeah. No, well said. I think I'll go now to the mysteries, the riddles, the making everything in the world, not even having, that's my second one, but not even having a quest that's clear to you at the outset. Like literally everything about this game is you figuring it out how to play it. As when we interviewed Carla Zamanja, she said the game needs to teach you how to play it, and this one does it as well. But it does it by proposing all these mysteries and just like making you pay attention, take notes, be thinking, well, what did that mean? And being curious about this world, in a way, I guess I would say, Gary, it was about, our world or how we should live life and things like that. So that kind of curiosity and investigation makes it feel like a real adventure of an RPG in a way that so few RPGs feel to me. It's so rare to feel like, wow, where is this going? Like, I mean, we said this time there's all this stuff later in the game that we had no idea was part of what we were going to experience when we started out. It's not in the manual. Nobody talks about the stones or the word or the abyss. They may mention the Codex of Infinite Wisdom, but that also might be a term I'm just familiar with, from other later Ultimas. But anyway, it's just quite something, and it makes it really. The moments when you make the connections are just like top tier gaming moments of just like, oh wow, like I see how all this connects now. It's so great. It's so cool.
Yeah. My third one was also about mystery. The only thing that I'd add to it that I put in mind was, which you're implying, you just didn't state it, is the trust in the player.
Mm-hmm.
And we also are in an era where we don't trust the player like we used to. And again, an episode doesn't go by without me mentioning Dark Souls, but I think that is a different version of that same concept, and I think that wrapping that into the meta element of it is also really impactful to the mystery, because it sounds like he and they have focused on this being its thing for all of the games where you play as a character, or you play as a player who is entering the world through a portal.
Yeah.
And so it's built in. Anyone who listens to this podcast knows that I love it when there's this elegant merger of the fiction and the gameplay, and everything kind of just meshes together. And this concept that, to your point, there's mysteries around every corner, and you have to really unravel and talk to people to figure out what's going on. Well, you just step through a portal to another world as a human in 1985. And of course you don't know how anything works because you're and when you try to change the marching order in the as a small note, try to change the marching order in your party, it won't let you put anyone but yourself up front.
Yes.
And it actually has a line that says something like, "You're the leader, you have to lead,"
Yeah.
And I thought that was also an interesting little choice where they're like, okay, no, this is what we're doing here. Hey, player, listen, this is what's happening.
Yeah.
You're playing this game, and this is what it's about. And it just works on so many different levels.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I really appreciate about the mysteries, since we're, it's a takeaway we share, is that they're also accessible throughout. It isn't. So I was thinking today, like, what a counterexample of this is, and I was thinking of the Fool's Errand, which is a sort of puzzle adventure game, based around the tarot and all this stuff. And there's all these kind of like little puzzles, but the whole game has this meta puzzle, which is like so much harder to puzzle out. I mean, it's just like a totally different level of difficulty. And it's like, I mean, it's one of the things I appreciate about this game is like, even getting to this later stuff where I'm like, I'm not quite sure where it's going to go. I still trust, as he has trusted me, I am trusting him to not make it impossible. Like, no, it's all there for you.
You're still making progress.
You don't need an IQ of 280 to figure out my final thing. There's not going to be some guesswork you have to do. It's not going to be some gotcha. It's all going to be there for you. You're following this path, right? And you're finding this path, but it's a path that anybody can follow, which is its own kind of commentary, I guess. So
that's good game design. I mean, that's really difficult to do, and people don't, including myself, haven't done it well, and it's really hard to do. To have the player feel like they can trust you, and to give you the right things at the right times, and even in this game, it's non-linear too, right? And you can find stuff before you're supposed to find stuff. And it just kind of adds to the mystery, but you at least feel like you found something. You're like, okay, I don't know what this is, but wasn't that cool that I just found it?
Yeah. Oh, and I mean, they also, right, they kind of give you the only instruction you really need, in the manual, which is talk to everybody. And I guess the meta instruction is at the beginning of the game, read the manual. No, really, read the manual. as the other kind of important step. Well, my final takeaway, I guess I want to say stuffing it full. Like, I don't know how else to put it. This is a game that has so much more in it than, certainly even having played 1, 2, and 3, than I would have guessed. This feels like an impossible game that existed on an Apple II. Like, at some point I stepped into a different universe where the Apple II was more capable than I remember. But no, I mean, it's all there. There is so much here, and it's just the technical challenge. We already talked about the constraints and everything, but thinking about how much gets put in this game and how every choice really matters to make that pay off. To have like these layers and layers of different, things that are important, and like the different levels of these quests, and like sort of how it proceeds towards the end of the game. It's just like, it's like, I mean, it's for you, it's like geocaching. There's a whole nother layer on this world,
Yeah.
I'm not seeing, like oh my God, the dungeons are the antitheses of the virtues, and like, it's just like everything is just crammed with meaning. Like, it's just everywhere you look in this game, there's more stuff. Like, oh, I didn't realize that, this guy was talking about this other, it's just, you haven't figured out how to get the sextant, but when you do, there's another thing there where I was like, that is brilliant. It is so, I'll just say it's an off the menu item. I don't know how to describe it. It's like if you went into whatever, some fast food restaurant, like In-N-Out Burger is famous for this.
Oh, I see. Yeah.
It's like you go in, and if you know how to ask for the such and such, right, they make you this particular burger.
That's great.
Great. And this, there was a moment where I was like, oh my God, they even found a way to subvert some of my expectations of how the game worked. But I had to like follow the steps to uncover that, in an order to learn the information. And I mean, it's just filled with those little, grace notes and delights and things like that everywhere, just all over the place. Like, oh my God, I didn't know, like talking to a bartender and knowing you have to ask him something. Like, it even says, it says in the manual, tips are appreciated, but you don't know that unless you spend more on the, for the drinks, that you'll be able to ask them about something, It's just everywhere in this game.
The fact that sometimes it tells you how much it asks you.
Yeah, they'll be like, I think it's worth a little more than that, don't you?
Yeah. But that sometimes it asks you how much you're going to spend, and sometimes it doesn't, right?
Right.
I've been kind of making note of, not physical notes, but like, mental notes of, oh, okay, so, probably
some of that's for justice, but some of it,
exactly. Yeah, if you give them less, right, then that'll impact your avatar state. But yeah, the scope of it. I also
scope. That's the word.
Well, I didn't. Yeah, going in, I don't think either of us appreciated what we were about to get ourselves into. But again, I was just to just, I guess, reply to your final takeaway a little bit. It in 1985, I guess I said it earlier in the episode, I think, or maybe it was in pre-show. We definitely should have played this game much sooner than we did, because I did not appreciate how much of an impact, and how relevant and impactful this game has been. It set a bar in 1985 for what open world games are, what RPGs are. Like, it's all here. Like the quests, the depth of the quests, the number, the mystery is much better in this game than we'd have today, which is ironic. But like the structure of it is here. They set a bar, and I feel like in many ways we haven't been chasing it ever since, in some ways,
Yeah.
There isn't a lot to hold a candle to it. No pun intended, but you know what I'm saying? I don't know. Yeah. I just am, to know that this was doing so much at this time, it just floors me. And I was doing I didn't have a lot of time to do more research on it, but I was trying to figure out what other contemporaries there were trying to challenge this stuff, but I just don't think anything was at this scale. And it's not just, for me, it's not just about amount of content, it's also how they're doing it.
Yeah.
They're not just throwing stuff in there. And I'm not going to name names, but there's some franchises that I think is just about wasting your time in scale of game.
Yeah.
And that's why I bounce off of them. It's like when I know what my next 100 hours is going to be, I'm like, I'm not going to finish this. And I don't finish games on purpose sometimes, because I don't want to, but yeah, they just keep reeling you in this one.
Yep. You just keep wanting to explore, and there's a logic behind, basically every choice, and it's just, you just feel in good hands. Like you said, it's just good design. You just feel like you're in the hands of somebody who really knows what they're doing with this game. And even though I have played 6 to completion and 7, maybe close to, I don't know if I finished that one, but I know that I have never played 5, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to replay 6 because it's been 30 years. So, I'll have to figure it all out again. And I also like two-handed it with a friend. So like, there are definitely times where I'm like, I'm going to take a nap for a couple hours and wake up and he's further along and like, okay, your time to take a nap. What am I doing? So it'd be fun to revisit that one. And then 7 has 2 parts. And then I don't know that I'll play 8. I certainly won't play 9. But then I also have the Savage Empire and Martian Dreams. It's like, I'm going to be probably a near completist. I don't think I can, brave 9. That one just,
unfortunately. Oh, there's Ultima Online, so you got to play that one.
I'm going to skip that one too. I'm not an MMO guy. But yeah.
It's
I mean, the games that are in this mold, are the ones I mentioned, 5, 6, 7, right. Yeah. Parts 1 and 2, and the 2 Ultimate
I'd be
Adventure
interested
games.
to know, like the other term, I was butchering another metaphor earlier, but the other term that makes me think of is like a Swiss clock. It just feels it's complex and there's a lot going on and there's a scope there, but everything is very well put together and connected. Even to the small medium size example of the fact that some of the dungeons are connected.
Yeah.
It's like they even thought about doing something like that, which is rare. So I don't know. It's just, it's something else. And I would be interested to know when you play the other ones, if the rest of them are, that's what I was going to say. Sorry to interrupt, but
no.
If 5 through 7 have the same sort of discipline, I'll call it.
Yeah.
That this one does.
Yeah. I'm really curious myself. One thing I will say is I wonder, and I'll have to, after I've made maps of all the dungeons, whether it is true that the dungeons that are connected because the virtues are connected.
You mean like on the chart?
The virtues are, like on that chart that's in the manual, the last page of the manual, right, is like a diagram of what he's, those Venn diagrams.
And the principles are in the middle.
Exactly, right. Yeah. And I wonder if, as the antitheses, if the dungeons are connected.
If that's true.
This literally just came to me as a possibility, is like it might be connected in the same ways that they're connected to the same like anti principles or whatever, then so the dungeons that share the same anti principles are connected. So you can get, you could actually understand how you could move about through the dungeons
based on
just understanding the philosophy of how it wouldn't surprise me to find out that was true.
Is that also how the moon designations are? So the ones that you travel to from any given place?
Also possible. I have not, since my mapping of the moons is kind of divorced from the virtues. I kind of haven't really thought about that at all. And it's very incomplete because at a certain point, I actually, once I had a ship, I almost never was using the moon gates because I didn't need to. I could pretty much get to everywhere pretty easily. So I don't know. Anyway, any final thoughts before we close out?
No, I haven't wanted to keep playing a game this much in a while. So it's, at the end of the day, that's kind of that's a big one for me.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, me too. Yeah, if you had told me I was going to spend 40 hours in Ultima IV and be like, and give me another 40, I would not have expected that. But then it would add up to 80,
So brother,
or maybe
I just can't imagine
24 right now, so it'll be 64.
I don't know if I'll get to do it. I definitely hope to after playing what I've played. But once you do, which you will, I can't imagine the feeling. I don't want to like jinx it, but the feeling.
I remember I was nearly ready to, I was tearing up when I finished Ultima Underworld, and that was, not nearly as amazing as I feel like this one is. Yeah.
Getting to wherever this ends. It's going to be a feat.
Yeah. Anyway, well, thanks for joining us with that. If you haven't played this game, we really recommend it. Turns out, classic game is classic. We love to get your reviews. Haven't had one in a minute. Love to have them. We did have one that was on some other service. Let us know if you do that. You can send us email too. We have a bunch waiting. We're probably going to fit some in next week. You can send us email at devgameclub@gmail.com. We're on the web at devgameclub.com. And my co-host here, Twitch, is at twitch.tv/
Tim Longo Jr. with a JR at the end.
And what are we currently into? Is it going to be mostly Hitman going forward, mostly Dwarf Fortress? What's the mix?
I don't know. Probably. I'm actually not sure this week. I think I'll probably return to Dwarf Fortress.
Okay.
After doing the Hitman charity thing.
You're into sprites now,
Yeah.
Sprites with depth.
I feel like I'm rediscovering Dwarf Fortress now too. Better. I'm doing a better job than I did when we played it for a podcast because I feel like I'm understanding it better. So, it's a similarly special game, I think, not being the same genre, but you just every time I play it, like this game, like Ultima IV, I'm like, what is going on? And it's special.
Yeah, for sure. You will see announcements of when he goes live on our community run Discord, and lots of good discussions over there. There's a link for that in the show notes. Our intro and outro music was written and performed by Kirk Hamilton, commissioned by friend of the cast Aaron Evers, and our logo, that Discord, our merch store, all by Mark Garcia. Have fun elevating each of the 8 virtues this week, and good night.
Good night.